yo, want to go from grant writing newbie to rockstar status? Let's cut through the noise because trust me, you're not going to find tips like this anywhere. I'm about to reveal the insider secrets that will transform your grant writing game. In 2024, foundations awarded over $90 billion in grants. The U.S. government distributed $1.82 trillion in financial assistance. And look, to be determined how those figures are going to look in 2025 and 2026, etc., with the Trump administration launching these cannonballs into federal funding landscape. But rest assured, we're still talking about a lot of money that's getting circulated. And today, I'm sharing insider tips to ensure your grant proposals stand out and secure the funding that you need. I am one of the world's leading grant writing coaches, and my students have won well over $1 billion in grants. Let's get into what you can do differently now to up your wins. Tip number 1 is target grants with a 20% chance of success. Imagine I'm throwing a bullseye onto the dartboard. You can have the most flawless grant application in the world, but if you're dealing with impossibly competitive odds, like a 2% chance of getting funded, it just ain't gonna happen. Instead, I have a little potty trick for you, which accomplishes 2 things. 1, it gives you an excuse to reach out to the funder to establish contact and build rapport, because trust me, no funder wants to see a cold application from you. But 2, it also helps you pinpoint grants with the best odds of success so you can write less but win more. If you're thinking critically, you might ask me, Mary Bear, how do I find this information out? You're gonna call or email your funder and ask them, we're interested in your grant program, but we're assessing if we're a good fit. Can you share roughly what percentage of applications were funded last cycle? How many applied versus how many were funded? You can go as low as 15%, but recognize that lower the percentage, the less likely you are to be successful, and you could be pouring that precious energy elsewhere. So I like to target personally grants with a 20% or more likelihood of success. Tip number 2, develop a focused grant strategy. Most nonprofits have this spray and pray method, hoping something on the wall will stick. Don't do this. Not only is this a huge waste of time, it's damaging to your reputation with funders, and they might not want to give you a second look in the future because of it. Instead, I recommend you learn my funding strategy methodology, which works for everything from complex city infrastructure projects to animal shelters. I'll link up below my easy peasy finding grants guide below to help you get trained on this method. This really is the secret sauce behind how you apply for less grants but win more when you know exactly what to pursue over the next 12 to 18 months. It's a living document, even in these tumultuous times. Tip number 3 is outline your narrative before you start writing. Most untrained grant writers just start writing applications top to bottom. They run out of time, so then they rush the latter parts of the application. And guess what? That's actually where the meat of your proposal is, and it's typically worth the most points. But not you, because before you dive into writing, you're going to outline your proposal in what I call a narrative skeleton. Now, with AI, you can draft a narrative skeleton in minutes, including complex federal grant applications that have over 100 pages in their guidelines. The essence is this. I want you to capture each section of the narrative, and you're going to start bulleting how you might want to respond to that section. It's a brainstorm, it's a dump. And if the scoring criteria is also available, be sure to include that in each section. And if you want to learn how to use AI to do this for you, be sure to check out my sexy new AI Besties grant writing course, which will take you from casually dabbling in AI to pro in 30 days. Tip number 4 is be concise and answer in 15 words or less. I'm a super active coach in our flagship program, the Grant Writing Collective, so I see a lot of grant narratives. And the number one mistake I see folks make is they're not being really clear and directly answering the question. I know this sounds silly, but if the funder asks, how does this project align with your organization's overall mission and goals? Then you better bet your bottom dollar that your first sentence needs to read, our project aligns with your organization's overall missions and goals by fill in the blank. Really, really straightforward response to the question. Or let's say the funder asks, what does sustainability mean to your organization, and how do you plan to maintain financial sustainability? Sometimes they smash like a bunch of questions in one. I would reply with, sustainability to our nonprofit means fill in the blank. And then quite clearly and obviously, sometimes I'll use like bold and italics or all caps in the next paragraph. I'll say, our plan to maintain financial sustainability is fill in the blank. The bonus tip in here is to keep your sentences to 15 words or less. People skim. Make it effortless. Make it easy for them to understand what you're saying. Long 45-word sentences does not make you sound smart. Tip number 5 is an independent quality control. Most grant writers work alone, which makes it hard to know if you're doing great work or if what you're saying is clear. And the worst case scenario is making a really silly mistake, like leaving out one small attachment that causes your entire proposal to get tossed. To mitigate this, ask someone to review your proposal with a fresh set of eyes. In-house nonprofit grant writers, a word of caution. If you give this to the wrong person in your organization, it might come back all marked up, rewritten, and totally over word count. And then how do you handle that, especially when it was your boss? If you know, you know, right? I encourage you to work with someone completely external to the organization or that you can trust to not go do things like that when you're getting your work quality control reviewed. That's one of the major perks of being a member of the Grant Writing Collective, as you can easily find peers that can review your work and return the favor. Tip number 6 is submit early. I'm not a natural procrastinator, so I never really understood this, but I know there's some grant writers that submit their grant within minutes of the deadline like it is a badge of honor. But just don't do this to yourself. Avoid last-minute stress and submit early. It demonstrates your commitment and your reliability to funders while also keeping you out of burnout. And then tip number 7 is invest in formal training. Grant writing is like baking a cake. I conveniently have handy and I can't wait to eat. 80% of the process is the same. We've got a narrative. We have a budget. We've got to gather attachments. But wow, the details are in the final 20%. When I published my first book in 2019, so this was before the pandemic, and the pandemic hit and funding and organizational operations just turned on their head. Then come 2021, we've got a social justice awakening, Black Lives Matter, etc. That led to major shifts in how you word your proposals to focus more on what's strong about your communities instead of what's wrong with them. Fast forward to 2023, AI is hitting the mainstream. Now we're in 2025 and 2026, and we're dealing with just an unprecedented volatility with federal funding and the trickle-down effect that has on basically everybody. This requires you to be creative in your word choice and be prepared to submit federal grants with just 2 weeks' notice. All of that to say, if you get formal training and you have strong community support, you're not going to be in the situation where the DIY approach is costing you thousands, if not millions of dollars. And that is a very steep price to pay when you need that money. If you want to learn more about who to train, go to our main website, hit the Start Here button, and select the training that best describes you. And with that, my friend, you are well on your way to becoming a grant writing rock star, or as I like to say, a grant writing unicorn. Check out the next video we have specifically selected for you in the description below for some additional resources. And I'd love to know, what tip stood out most to you?